Hey,
I was supposed to say that first, but it doesn't even matter because we're like brothers and sisters anyway. How are you,
yeah,
Hard Hittin Harry?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great.
Good.
Blessed, highly favored,
I know that's right. I know that.
alive. You know,
Yes. For
so
those who don't know, welcome Harry to the Silver Lining series. Harry is my Haitian brother from another mother, although I do love your mom a lot, but you are my Haitian brother
thank
from
you.
another
She loves you too.
mother.
She's gonna see this too. So
Yes, he is the hardest working DJ with residencies at Bedfine Brew, Red Rooster, Apollo Music Cafe. Started his DJ career with the Fugees. And you have a radio show, Haitian All Stars Radio, on WBAI
yes,
99.5
99.5
FM.
FM.
And you're also a music producer, but most recently, we can add filmmaker to your line of work because you have a documentary called Dear Father, which we're going to talk a little bit about
Yeah.
towards the middle of this interview. But thank you for being here. Harry, it's been COVID, so I haven't seen you for Apollo Music Cafe anymore.
Yes.
It's been race, justice and protest. How are you doing?
Well, I'm doing good. The short answer is I'm doing well. Um, I'm still surviving. I want to say that, everything is a process right now. It's a whole new world, so to speak.
Absolutely.
So I'm grateful to have survived, I want to say, the dark period of March up until now.
Mhm.
Um, Grateful for my family, grateful for my friends and loved ones that have holding me down and supporting me throughout this process.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm doing well. I'm doing good, and I'm also grateful for the countless amount of supporters and fans that support me as a DJ. You know what I mean?
Yes.
People that rock to my parties. They may have one of my mixtapes, or they may have checked me out on live stream. They may have listened to me on the radio, or they may have just simply been like I said, been at my parties. They come support in person, offline. So since COVID, since the the whole thing happened with COVID-19 and the quarantine, I've been so blessed to receive the support from people that check in on my live stream. They send me donations. My God, the amount of donations that I received was just overwhelmingly crazy. It was so appreciative at a time where, you know, I mean, I pretty much all my gigs were frozen, you know,
Right.
and
Right.
so, it was just really humbling that, people really reached in their pocket and, sent me a Cash App or a PayPal or a Venmo and I really appreciate that, because it helped a lot, with food and just basic necessities like
Absolutely.
food and just kind of keeping the bills paid here, you know what I mean? So I'm just grateful,
But
and
Harry, you've
then
been working. You've been working. I mean, you have been online every day DJing. It's not like you haven't been putting in the work. I mean, you
right.
have been feeding our souls,
Yeah.
and you have been keeping us company, especially for those who live by themselves. It's like when I go on my IG live and I see you immediately, I'm
Yeah.
going to your page
I see you too.
because it's that level of comfort. It's like, oh, okay, Harry's with me. Let me go ahead and cook something up
Yeah.
and jam and party. You put in work, Harry. You're a
Yeah.
dad. You're a
Yeah.
dad, and you have a film called Dear Father that you created.
What being a father means to me means responsibility.
What a father means to me is stability.
Oh man, my father's like my big brother, man.
The funny part about it is I'm a DJ and I love music because of my dad.
And it's just so funny. I thought about it was so heavy on my heart during Father's Day.
Yes.
And interestingly enough, on Father's Day, my phone stopped working and my laptop stopped working. So I had no communications to the outside world.
Mercury retrograde.
I mean, look, I am the queen of Mercury retrograde. I just want to, sit in my corner.
Yes.
But I thought about Dear Father a lot, the film
Yes.
that you created. And I wanted to talk to you about that. First and foremost, why did you create this documentary? Why was it so important for you to create a documentary about fatherhood?
Well, I didn't have a healthy relationship with my own father. My father's old school Haitian. He was married to my mom for 4 years before they divorced. And, I was a product of single, my mom was a single mom, And so, I struggled with maintaining a healthy relationship with my father, despite, the relationship that he had with my mom.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a situation where, over the years, especially as I got older, it was important for me to try to foster a healthy relationship with my father, particularly because he was getting older and, we wanted to put a lot of things, behind us, as a family. My father, full disclosure, my father was, he was a hard man. He has been through a lot in his life, but he was also very angry. He was very abusive, at times.
Mm-hmm.
He can be a sweet man. He was a sweet man at times, but I remembered really a lot of the bad parts of my life, from the abuse and, just things like that. So, towards the end, when, he had gone through several, he had a heart attack, he had a couple of strokes. I always said to myself, I said, you know what? I really want to do something to, help other people that are going through what I'm going through, because I don't want people pretty much to go through what I've been through, you know. And so eventually my father passed away. My father passed away in 2017. And, that was a difficult period of time because, again, he and I didn't have a healthy relationship. It wasn't positive, especially towards the end. And so I struggled with even going to bury him, to bury my father in Florida. And so he lived in West Palm Beach.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So thankfully, I had, conversation, with my daughter's mother, my mom, just what should I do? So I did the right thing as a son, and I got on the plane and I went and I buried my father. Spoke to his casket, said everything to him that I've always wanted to say, and I made peace with that.
Mm.
So
Mm.
here it is, June, my father died in April, and June was coming up, which is Father's Day, right? 2017. My friend Nova was putting together a panel discussion on fatherhood. And, it was a thing where he wanted to, honor fathers, discuss fathers, fatherhood, good, bad, or indifferent. He wanted to do something, to pretty much, you know, talk about the issue of fatherhood. And so at the time I was in the studio, shout out to my partner, DJ Super JB, and we were creating music, and I was kind of just like escaping from the whole situation. We created this track called Dear Father. And my friend Nova, who was putting together the panel discussion, knew that. He said, hey, you could tie it into your record, and that would be an even bigger opportunity for you to, to promote your record. I said, cool, let's do it, So we did it. Reached out to my brother Malik Yoba, actor Malik Yoba, and also my local councilman, which is Robert Cornegie, to come out and also support the event. And they did. Amongst other, wonderful, wonderful participants that were part of the documentary. My kids were a part of the documentary as well, JB's kids. And, my daughter, she was in it. Both my daughters are in it. My son, my grandson. It was just an opportunity to really talk about fatherhood from all different perspectives. My perspective, which was really I didn't really want to touch too much on the negative, but I wanted to kind of just show, that my history and my relationship with my father. Molly and my daughter Molly and Paya, they wanted to talk about, you know, their perspective as, being my daughter,
Right,
my daughter. My
right.
son, he had just became a father to my grandson. So he spoke on his perspective as being a new father.
Wow.
And
Wow.
then Robert Carnegie, whose father passed away when he was like very young, I think it was like 12 years old. He
Hmm.
spoke on his perspective as being a father, I'm sorry, growing up without a father to
Hmm.
guide him,
Right.
you know. So it was a very interesting dynamic. And then you're talking about Malik Yoba, who played a father on the hit show New York Undercover.
Which so many people leaned on as an example of what a father is.
Right,
Right.
right. He was one of the first examples on a weekly basis of a single black father on
Yeah.
television. You know,
Yeah. And
so
it's
he
and
spoke
it's
on
and
that.
it's so interesting because I'm listening to you tell me about the dynamics with you and your father, and you have your own kids. What was the teaching from your father's relationship, you and your father's relationship, that carried over or created almost like a boost of motivation for how you fathered?
Absolutely.
What were those things?
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, um, just being in my kid's life is very important for me. And I know how important that is
Mhm.
when when both parents are in the household. I can testify to that, Um, and so it was very important for me not to do what my father did. He was absent. He didn't pay, he did not uh, touch base with me as much as, I was younger. I wanted that relationship with him. I wanted to reach out, and every time I reached out to him, he was very short and he was very like dismissive. So I
Hmm.
knew I didn't want that kind of relationship with my own children, and so it was a lesson that I learned and that I took with me, and I said, you know what, I'm going to really speak out about it. My mom was like, you should write a book. Grateful for that experience because it taught me a lot, again about different perspectives of fatherhood. A lot of it's not discussed too much, you know what I mean, in
It,
terms of
it, it isn't. It isn't. And what's interesting when you say that is not only is it not discussed, there's a narrative. And I know a lot of men. I know a lot of Black men. I know a lot of men overall. And you hear it constantly. Black men are not active in their father's lives. When I think of your father, completely different from my father, and they grew up around the same time, right? In
yes,
Haiti,
yes,
culturally,
yes,
they're kind of like the same, but my father was a little bit more different. He was more hands-on. I was daddy's little girl.
yeah,
You were raised where your father, his hard persona made it a little bit more challenging for him to be that kind of active in your life type of father.
right.
However, I hear that narrative all the time. I hear it. Black fathers are not active in their lives. And I see it where this system's not built for Black men to be fathers in their children's lives,
Oh yeah,
with prison reform, with the way the programs are offered
oh yeah.
for non-families. It has to be a single mother. A mother cannot claim having a man in her household in order to
By design.
by design, right? So it's, to receive these resources. So how are we changing this narrative? Because I just know way too many. My brothers, my cousins, I know way too many men that are so active and fathers, standing fathers in their children's lives.
Yes.
Yet the stigma is Black men equates to no fathers.
Right. Well, I mean, you're doing the right thing right now by creating this platform for fathers like myself to speak and to let it be known that we are active in our children's lives and in our families' lives, in our families.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that I know so many great fathers as well, like my circle alone, in
Yeah.
my circle alone. Shout out to JB, shout out to DJ One, shout out to Jeff. I could go on and on and on
Mm-hmm.
about the men that are in my life that are really amazing fathers, that are present in their children's lives. So we just have to continue to do the right thing and change that narrative, you know, and continue to, you know,
Tell our stories.
yeah, to tell our stories. You know,
Yes,
I'm
absolutely.
always, you already know, I'm already very vocal on social media about my children, my, you know,
Oh my
as much as
gosh,
I
it's the
can, you know.
best. It's the best. I feel like I've had some of your children with you. I'm like always. I'm in the
Yeah.
pictures. I'm rooting them on. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
and you know, I try not to be too, you know, because you want some kind of element of privacy, you know.
yes,
But at the end of the day, everything is on social media. So I really, if I'm sharing something, I definitely want to share it with the world. You know what I mean? So yeah, I really, I'm grateful for my children and my family, and you know, I really try to share that with the world. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
and then when the world sees it, hopefully it's an example, you know, for others, you know, to say, hey, you know what? Let me step my game up because I see Harry doing it over here. And I've gotten that. I get it all the time.
Oh, that's
I get it
awesome.
all the time. People DM me, they email me, they text me, they say, hey man, oh, Father's Day, I was just flooded, you know, and I'm just, thank you to everyone out there that reached out. I may not have thanked you personally,
Hmm.
but thank you to everyone that reached out to wish me a happy Father's Day. And they see me, they were like, Harry, I see you, you know, and that really feels good, you
Yeah,
know.
there's power. There's so much power when you look at the Black family structure. It's so powerful that I see why. I see why systems are in place to
That's
destroy it.
right.
Right? I
Right.
see it. I see it because there's something to be said about those that are raised with a mom and a dad.
Yeah.
And if not a dad, if not a dad, a male presence that holds them
Right.
accountable and shows them their self-worth. There's something powerful in that. There's
Yes.
something powerful in that. If you
Yes.
could
And
do,
definitely speaking on that, shout out to all the men that were in my life. I have to mention the men that were in my life, you know, when my father wasn't there. You know,
yep,
I've had uncles, you know, some of my mother's
shout out
best
to the uncles.
friends, and you know, my mother, you know, people that you know, I always say this, and then my mom hates when I say it, but you know, the men that my mom dated, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There were men that were in my life that really impacted me, that my mom had relationships with in the past, and even her current relationship,
Mhm.
that were very impactful in my life and my development as a man.
If you could do it all, if you could do it differently, if you looked at fatherhood and said, I'm going to do this a little bit differently this time around, what would it be?
I don't know if I would do anything differently, you
I
know.
love it.
I really don't know because I think that, you know, I've tried to the best of my ability to do everything in my power to make sure that my kids have food, uh, clothes on their back,
Hmm.
a roof over their heads.
Hmm.
And I've done that hook or crook. I mean, you know, legally, of course. Y'all ain't gonna get me out there. But no, but I don't know if I would have done anything differently. I think everything that I've done so far, I'm so grateful that it's been able to bring my, you know, my children to this point in their lives. You know, my children have all been through a lot of ups and downs, as we all have. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But I want to say that I've always been there for them as the rock, as the person that they can count on, as person that they can say, hey, I know I could count on my dad. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? No matter what we go through, you know, my children can say that they can count on me because I'm there for them. You know.
As we celebrate our Blackness, and I'm talking about all things Black, we're in an era right now where people are just Black and proud. And I
Yeah.
love it. I love it.
Always.
I love it. We've always, but like we're just being really vocal about it and expressive about it right now, which
Yeah.
deservingly so.
Yes.
Um, I am I am personally dedicated to lifting the story of Black fathers. Me personally, as you know, I no longer have my dad, and so how much of an impact that fathers have on a human's life is so important to me, and it's something that I want to keep hearing. For the new fathers, for the men that want to be fathers, what is the silver lining in fatherhood for you? What's that silver lining?
The silver lining of fatherhood for me is being able to really provide.
Mm,
A lot of people don't really take that really serious when they think about that concept of being able to provide for your family.
provide what, money or what are you providing?
Support.
Mm,
And that encompasses everything. It encompasses money, it encompasses being there emotionally.
mhm.
You know, it didn't have to be for money. My father didn't have to give me money. He gave me money. He gave me money at times. He gave me a car. He gave me things. He gave me a puppy. You know what I mean? He did. I had a collie back in the day. You know what I mean? I had a collie, the Lassie type dog, you
Oh,
know.
wow.
But I wanted him to be there. I wanted him to be there. I wanted him to take me out to, you know, to a ball game or a basketball game or what have you. You know what I mean? So it really, it's that support that really, for me, is the silver lining to fatherhood. Supporting your children, just being there, um, physically, and if you're not there physically, then pick up the phone. It's like just being there, you know, providing that one-on-one, you know.
And it's providing that grounding too, right? It's
Yeah,
providing that grounding for your child.
right,
Like, I'm good. Like, daddy's there, he's got me. I'm grounded. I'm good.
right.
Um, Fathers do that. Fathers create that sense of grounding for human beings. And I'm so glad you came. I'm so glad you developed that film, Dear Father. It gave me a chance to like speak my truth. I wasn't in it, but when we had
Yeah.
that
No,
panel
you were very
discussion,
much a part of the promotion
yeah,
process. Dear Father really, it's still, believe it or not, it's still a work in progress. There's a
yeah,
couple different things in progress with Dear Father. Since that happened, since the film was released and we screened it at several spots, we won an award for it from the Newark International Film Festival. So shout out to the Newark International Film Festival. They gave us an award for Best Documentary Short, Best Director Documentary Short.
congratulations,
Richard
Richard.
Louissaint.
Yeah,
Yes, thank you, thank you.
yeah.
So that was incredible. And then since then, it um, it was on a network called the Jam Network in Jersey, based out of Jersey, and then now they're shopping it to different other networks as well. And so we want to continue the stories, you know, because fatherhood is a never and there's no end in stories on fatherhood. You
Nope.
know, everyone has a father, everyone has a situation with their father, good, bad, or indifferent. And so we want to keep telling those stories, you know. We want to reach out to more and more fathers, you know, to talk about their, you know, their situations, their, you know, their stories, good, bad, or indifferent,
Right,
you know,
right.
and continue to put out that content, you know,
Yeah,
continue to put out that content, and that way it will, like you said, what's the silver lining? The silver lining is to be able to tell these stories and to
yeah.
show that fathers are present, you know. So Dear Father is an ongoing saga. Plus, you will get to see, hopefully, I'm trying to get it made now, a full length feature on the story of my father.
Mm,
And that right now is, I'm working with my mother on the screenplay. I already started working with her on it.
I
And
love it.
it's beautiful because you get to see the backstory, why
Yeah,
my father is the way he, you know. I couldn't understand that because, you know, my father didn't believe in therapy, you know.
yeah,
I
yeah.
went to therapy. I went to therapy, and that came much later, you know, as I'm older. But that's how I was even able to deal with, you know, the issues concerning my father. I had to go to
Mm,
therapy,
mm,
and so, um, you know, the you know, the story of my father stems from his experience back in Haiti, whatever
right,
he went through, and
right.
there's a whole story there,
There's a huge story.
whole story there.
There's a cultural story there
Right,
on how old school Haitian men, how they parent
right,
and what fatherhood means for them. So fatherhood in itself, like you talking about being supportive to your kids and emotionally and being there, you could be there as a Haitian man, but emotionally, like feelings, what is that? So we've got to talk about manhood
Right.
before we can address what fatherhood means, because manhood, you're not even supposed to be emotional.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So fatherhood is such a complex thing.
Right. And you're right, because to be able to be vulnerable was
Mhm.
something that I had to grapple with as well. At first, I didn't want to go to therapy, it was like it was a pride thing. It was a
Right.
pride thing, And so once I had to let that go, I was able to say, okay, let me discuss, all these issues, and then I can be able to really fully be vulnerable enough to express myself.
Did
And
therapy help?
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I recommend it for anyone going through anything, where you're unable to, where you're keeping stuff bottled in and you really don't know where it's coming from. You really don't know why you're upset, or you're going through failed relationships, or you're attracting, this kind of a person that's not right for you, or things like that. These things will help you fine tune yourself and to really understand, how to communicate.
Well, thank you so much, Harry. Appreciate you. Appreciate what
Thank you. I
continue
appreciate you.
DJing. Continue keeping our souls fed with your music and rocking the
Yes.
box all the time.